Welcome to Unshackled, a podcast for ambitious strivers who know that our lives and our time here are precious. We overcome the habits that bind us and boldly go after our dreams. I'm your host, Becca, and I've overcome my addictions and reinvented myself more than once, and I know how to help you do the same. If you're ready to up your game by ridding yourself of useless addictions, if you're ready to unshackle yourself, then you've come to the right place. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome back. Today, day 8 of our countdown to February of the top 10 most common obstacles to happy alcohol-free living. We're talking about regret, and regret is a double-edged sword. As a matter of fact, we can use regret to our advantage, and I'm going to talk about that. First, though, I'm going to talk about how the negative effects of regret and how and why we want to avoid it. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you that wallowing in regret is going to make us feel bad and want to reach for a drink. But it's deeper than that. Regret actually can take us down very, very difficult paths, lead to depression, self-reproach goes on and on. We can end up ruminating. We can end up in a spiral which can be very, very damaging. And if we tend to reach for alcohol to relieve bad feelings, that's, what's going to happen. And of course, as I mentioned yesterday, it's kind of ironic. What I did was I would drink, do something stupid, wake up the next day regretting that I had done something stupid. In order to relieve the feeling of regret, I would drink again and do another stupid thing and wake up in double regret. And to relieve the regret, I would drink again and wake up the next morning in triple regret and drink again. And you get the point. This can go on and on and on. And actually that leads me, we'll come back to that in a second, but this leads me, it's a good segue into how we can use regret to our advantage. There's a saying that I was taught when I was in the treatment center in 2018. I spent 8 weeks in a residential treatment center, in case you don't know, because I was pretty darn bad drinking. And there's a saying they like to use in there. They say, play the tape. Play the tape through to the end was the way they like to put it. And what they mean by that is if you get the urge to drink, before you do, stop and consider not just how it's going to feel to have that drink, which is what you want, but what could happen after, and then after that, and what's the end of the story, right? Play the tape right through until the next morning, and how are you going to feel when you open your eyes in the morning, and who knows what's happened, or any possible that anything could happen, but you're going to open your eyes and feel what? Regret. Especially if you have some sober time under your belt, you're going to wake up feeling pretty serious regret. And so we can use it in that way to motivate ourselves to go, yeah, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm not going to have that drink after all. But if we already have things in our past that we regret, this is me. So if you've heard any of my some of my previous episodes, I've talked about how I was a sex trade worker in my 20s. And I write about that in my upcoming book. I talk about how I went from a prostitute to a professor. Well, if you can imagine, I had a few regrets. Right? Because I was not one of those prostitutes who was loud and proud, and they do exist, by the way. I've met several, but that had no problem with what I was doing. And I'm not judging prostitution, by the way. It's who am I to judge? I believe it serves a purpose in our society. It's there anyway. It's certainly not going anywhere, but it was not for me. It did not feel right for me. It never felt right for me. And so it led me to massive regret, shame, guilt. The story's long, right? The story's long, but I'm over that. And so I believe that I have some pretty valid experience on how to get over the regrets from the past. Now, this is a little bit different from just like, oh, I drank last night, I regret that. You know, I'm talking about if we have shame and regret from our past that we're dragging around like a ball and chain on our ankle, which is what I did for years. Not only did I drag it around, but I hid it. I couldn't talk about it. No one knew about it. And that is very difficult to live with. You know, and the way I got over it was to start to share. Now, going this public, some might say, is a little bit over the top, but that's where the route that I decided to go. No, I'm not suggesting that for you. But I am suggesting that you, if you have something from your past that you regret, that you've kept to yourself, it's time to, the best cure I know of is to find somebody trusted, a trusted confidant that you can share it with, a counselor, a coach, a friend, a sponsor, somebody that you can share it with so you can get a little perspective on it. You know, one of the things that we do when we carry these around, things like this around in secret, is we build it up into a bigger monster than it is. It really always is bigger in our minds than it really is, no matter what we've done. You know, I thought that if anyone ever found out, like, my life would be over, and it's almost anticlimactic. I'm like, hello, isn't anyone shocked? I'm like, no, not really. Everyone's like, oh, well, whatever. Okay. So, you know, we build these things up and turn them into these monsters that really don't exist. This is, by the way, a part of the 12-step program. It's incorporated right in there because they know the value of that. Any good counselor will tell you. I think we all know that it's really good for us not to carry secrets around and have regret and shame. Shame actually is a different story. We're going to talk about it soon, in a day or two. But to have regrets really are pointless. You know, I think we know that what's done, unless there's something you can do about it, unless you can actually change what you're regretting, which is rare. Sometimes maybe an apology, or maybe you can go, I don't know, if you borrowed someone's car and left it a mess, you could go clean it up, or maybe you did damage to it, you can go and fix it, or whatever. I mean, if there's a way to clean up your mess of something you're regretting, then go and do it by all means. But if there's nothing you can do about it, there's nothing you can do about it. And we really do tend to drag this stuff around, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's called acceptance. We have to accept there's nothing I can do about that and let it go. There is nothing I can do about my past. And so I've chosen instead to write about it and share it, because I believe that the way I've told my story and the way that I believe that it will help others who have things in their past that they feel are unacceptable. And that's why I told my story, and I'm telling my story. Good can come out of almost anything. And so you just never know, right? What you're regretting could have a nugget of good in it, but you really will never know if you don't share it with someone else and get an objective second person looking at it. We're way too emotionally attached to our own regrets to even see them properly. We just can't see it. We're emotionally sitting right up against it with our noses pressed right up against it, and we can't see it. We can't get any objectivity. So we got to get it out. We got to share it. But one thing we know for sure, that regret is a pointless and will get us nowhere but heading us back into the bottle. And our goal here is happy alcohol-free living. Not just alcohol-free living. So I encourage you to look at anything you're regretting and go ahead, go and share it with somebody. Find someone you trust. Be careful. Don't just blurt it out to someone who's going to throw it back in your face. But don't just carry it around. And then also keep in mind that regret can be used to stop us from doing something that we will regret. We can decide, I don't want to regret that. No, I'm not going to eat that donut. I'm not going to drink that drink. I'm not going to do it because I don't feel like regretting it. All right, onward and upward, folks. Thanks for joining me. Tomorrow we will be back. And what are we going to do tomorrow? I don't know. Tomorrow is day 7, and we're going to look at overwhelm. That's another good one. Okay, sending you tons of love. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for popping in. Remember, unshackling happens one day, one moment, one choice at a time. Do me a favor, subscribe, share, and shoot me some feedback. Chat soon.